there's a sea of boats and people in paddle boards just going and seeing the fireworks. It's the most epic shit ever, man. It's
Y'all check it out. I'm in Chicago, right? I pulled up to the bing. What the fuck?
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We go from Calgary to Chicago, and I am very excited to be welcoming Anchit of MH Chaos, Sector, Hold My Own, Grounds of Execution. Am I missing any of the bands that you're in? There's a lot.
Thank you for having me, first of all.
Of course.
Brother, this podcast is fucking awesome. I play bass in another band called Absent Mind. We just played a show last night, actually. Sick.
Oh, sick. Okay. Well, I'll add that to the list. It's always funny when I have people in like over 3 projects, because then the title for the podcast episode is just so long. They're like, how many bands is this person in? But that's sick. How was the show, first off?
It was sick, man. It had a different vibe to it. Like, it wasn't like I was eating a burger like right next to the stage while like the show was right there, and like there was just tables everywhere. But then there was like an open area where everyone can stand.
I got you.
Not many like harder shows happen at this venue. More of like, I've seen Crowbar at this venue. Just like kind of chill shit like that. That's not chill at all, but it's a cool spot for just like fucking eating good food, headbanging, and drinking beer. It's sick.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So the show was sick. There was like a younger band from Chicago called Break the Cycle.
Okay.
They're just starting to pop off, and they played. A band canceled last minute and they hopped on. And then there's like some older bands, some older cats from the area that have done bands for a while. So it was a nice mix of like, it was just nice, like a nice Chicago hardcore show. Had a good.
Yeah.
And then I got to mention, I guess, another band that I'm in right now is Shattered Realm. I'm playing guitar for that band. And that's been
just
an amazing experience.
Super busy. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves now, but when I was like researching, when I research guests, sometimes one of my secret ways of finding the deep cuts is not to be just on their profile, but to see their tagged post, to see, if they're like, there's something way back in the day. And this is more of a recent thing, but I know when Shattered Realm played, I don't know if it was the FYA pre-show or something like that. You guys said on stage that you were Body Box. And I saw that video and was laughing so hard because, we've had members of Body Box like on the podcast itself. But I think never in my life have I heard a quote unquote mosh call that is saying we are a band that is not this band. So I needed to throw that here in the episode because I thought that was just too funny.
That's hilarious. I gotta say, Kane said that. That's hilarious that you interpreted that. I think he said for Body Box.
For Body Box.
No, he might have said we're body. I have no idea. No one.
I like thinking that he said we are Body Box, and the band is not Body Box. But yeah, that could just be a slight misinterpretation. But maybe you can you do me a favor?
Yeah,
because I like to play the real life aspect of this podcast. If you could text Kane, you said is the guitar, and just say, hey, when you said Body Box during that set, did you mean for or we are? So, we're very early into the episode, so I think by the tail end, there's a good chance that we might get some feedback.
Let's find it out. I hope.
This podcast is already off to like a great start. I'm feeling it. So Anchit, we've already gotten to a bit of the music chats, and there's a bunch of things that I want to ask you about all the different bands that you're playing in. But it's before we get into it really, really deep, we gotta check some bebs before we get on the show. So it's tradition for the guests to go first. So tell us what you're going to be sipping on for the episode.
Awesome. This is really cool. I've been waiting to do this.
Very ceremonious.
Yeah, dude. I got this Arizona iced tea grape aid fruit juice cocktail in a can. This is in my childhood, I probably fucking spent thousands of fucking dollars on this shit. Probably more than that. Just like skateboarding around town and hanging out. The town I live in now actually is where I grew up when I was a kid. And I live here with my fiance now, which is pretty cool. So I got this drink because it just reminds me of my childhood.
Got you. And as long, Arizona's a good pick because even if you spent thousands of dollars, at least you're getting thousands of worth of Arizona iced tea because it's 99 cents. I think I remember reading some article where some person was trying to tell the founder or something. And again, someone can fact check me on this, but he almost like scoffed in their face when it's like, there is no way ever that I'm going to be raising the price of Arizona iced tea. So I got to respect that for, keeping the Bev origin true and pure.
Yeah, I remember that rumor. I remember hearing it was about to go up.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, that's some integrity right there.
Absolutely. Stick to the 99 cents. And for the true fans of this podcast, everyone knows that 99 is kind of like my favorite number. So anything that can stay within that realm is primo for me.
Okay.
So yeah, great check. For me, I'm going to be doing a liquid death. More so because I've just had my morning coffee and I need something to kind of balance the caffeine and the hydration levels. So that's what I'm doing for the episode.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Checking it right by the microphone to get that nice opening sound. But cheers to you, Anchit. Really excited to do this episode, bro.
Thank you, brother. Cheers to you. And thank you for having me again, man.
Of course. It's obviously a reason why I wanted to have you on is like MH Chaos is really like blowing up right now. And you guys put out a record at the very end of the year, which has been like, it's funny. Anytime that my band would get together and practice, it always seemed that my bass player Daniel, anytime that I'd be rolling with him to the jam spot, he'd be only listening to MH Chaos. Like, it's like, all right, the commute is 20 minutes, throw on the record, and just like, that was the only thing. So it's been in heavy rotation in my friend group, and I'm sure it's been in heavy rotation for a lot of different people. So I definitely want to chat about that. And obviously with like all the different bands that you're a part of, like there's a lot that we can chew on. Sure. But any new guest who comes on the show, I always like to get a bit of context about how they got into hardcore, and kind of like their origin story. And you've done a couple other podcasts where you've talked about this. So maybe if you only had like 5 minutes to say, to tell someone like where you came from and the pivotal moments of what put you on the path of the core, how would that go for you?
I guess at a young age, I was into skateboarding and just doing shit like that, going out, hanging out with my friends, and that inevitably led to like harder music, punk rock, just scratchy music, fucking shit that I wasn't really exposed to as like an Indian kid. So I don't think if it were for that, I don't know if I would have been into any of this as for a lot of people. So yeah, I think that was a huge part of it when I was young. When I was young, I would be told that everyone quit skateboarding and started a band. And I would be like, nah, man, shit, I'll never do that. But I think a lot of people in that kind of skateboarding world, at that time in middle school and high school around where I lived in Aurora, they were all picking up a bass, a guitar, a drum, meeting up to jam in their parents' basement in the garage. And that's how I started, just literally being in a fucking garage with my friends playing the worst music you could possibly think of.
Yeah. We have all started at that point.
Yeah, dude. And I miss that shit so much. Like I look back at it now and I fucking miss it. Like there's not a care in the world and you just don't know anything. It's just like you're in this new world. It's fucking exciting, man.
Totally.
And yeah, I mean, I just got my start, starting with band with my friends. They needed a bass player. I had no idea how to play bass. I just said, fuck it, I'll do it. And at that point, I think I had taken guitar classes at like a fucking random guitar shop in the town, but I didn't take it too seriously. It was pretty bad. I think my brother eventually, my older brother, who now plays in Grounds of Execution and Hold My Own, he took it pretty seriously. He started a band. He would play clubs in the town, and just seeing what he did, honestly, was my step in the door. Like, I owe it all to him. Honestly, I don't think I would know. I wouldn't know skateboarding. I wouldn't know hardcore. I wouldn't know music if it weren't for him. So, yeah, I got the chance to just see what he did from afar, and eventually try it myself with my friends, and we did that. And our first show was in our friend's garage, and there's there's like one of our first shows. There's a picture like we're playing, and there's a picture of my brother. He's like in the back laughing, like he's on the side just pointing and legit laughing at us. Fucking epic. I love the photo because he's like the most supportive person in the fucking world for everything. But he's real as fuck too. So I remember that shit. It's so funny.
That's really, really funny. Yeah, because I think the people closest to you, like whether it's family or friends, someone could be like, yeah, the new Hold My Own demo is sick, or this is sick. And then your friends can be like, yo, that's fucking whack. And just like, it comes from a loving place because there's like an openness to beak on one another in that way.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. Even now, like not everyone's going to be into everything, and that's okay. Like,
yeah,
it's fine. Like,
yeah. But I do like how you were mentioning about getting into guitar lessons and then not really being into it. And I think I've maybe said this maybe one or two times on other podcast episodes, but for me, when I was learning how to play guitar, I think I went through like 5 different teachers because I was just like, I didn't give a fuck about playing scales. I didn't want to learn like all the more technical stuff that now I'm like, I kind of wish that I spent a little bit of time, but I was so focused about like, I would like go to my guitar lessons with, a Slipknot song on my iPod or like a Disturbed song. And I'm like, tell me how I make this noise, whether it's like a squeal or a dive bomb or like a scratchy thing. Yep. And a lot of people that don't have that heavy music background were just like, well, no, you gotta play AC/DC and Kiss and all this shit. And I like just didn't have the patience for it. And then over time, once I actually got linked up with someone who was like, oh yeah, I've played in bands and I've played like DIY shows, and yes, I can teach you like, downstrokes and picking techniques and things like that. And then that's where it actually like was salvageable. And now like I'm almost into my 30s now, and I definitely look back about like maybe missing some things on the lead side, but I think I've always branded myself as like a rhythm guitar player and a songwriter, and I feel like that is like almost more crucial when it comes to actually writing music.
Oh, no, that's amazing. And by the way, Endgame is sick, man. You guys are...
Oh, dude, thank you so much. I was not trying to, bait the plug or anything like that. So that's very, very nice of you.
The riffs are sick. The vocal was badass, dude. I fuck with it.
Yeah. So, so we've covered some ground as far as the early stages, and yeah, I think skateboarding is obviously the clear bridge into getting into some of those things. And I thought it was interesting on how you were saying about how people were like dropping skateboarding to start bands, but like for you it was like, no, I can just do both.
Yeah.
And like it's so apparent now bands will go on tour. Like I'll see bands go out on tour and then they're like intentionally stopping at the local skate park to be able to practice and do different things. So I think that's really dope.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I haven't been skating too much lately. Like there was like a couple years ago, a few years ago, right before the Rumble, Chicago, like MH was about to play for the first time. I went to
Mm.
this band skate park and started skating with my Timbs on for some reason, like a fucking, and I fucked my shit up. Like it's bad. I was like, damn, might not be able to play this show. Like,
Uh,
and ever because sometimes when I fall skate, I always fuck my shit up.
right.
It's never like something always happens. I don't know why. For me, it's like I'm just a fucking idiot.
Yeah. But that's what's so crazy to me is that these bands will do like 3-week long tours and every other day they're at a skate park where I'm like, you're the guitar player and you could easily break your arm and do this thing. But it's so like punk and just like cool that you are just so obsessed with like both endeavors that
Yeah.
they will coexist one way or another.
Right.
I do remember like I'm not a big on skateboarding, but I like when I realized I didn't have the patience to like again like fall and like learn tricks, like I bought like a not a longboard but like a short board, and
Yeah.
I remember a band I was playing in, day of the show, just riding around my neighborhood getting some fresh air and then just like biffed it, and then my hand like was not broken or sprained, but it was just enough that I'm like, I don't think I can play this show.
Oh.
And luckily we were like a 5-piece bill, so, and I was just the second guitar player, so they could easily do it. But apparently it was one of the wildest shows that band has played, so I feel like really dumb about that. But again, it's like it's wild that people that are into skateboarding and like who tour will still do both on any given day for any reason. Practicality goes out the window at that point.
Super sick. Fuck it, dude.
Yeah. So, MH Chaos is, you're in so many bands, but I think MH Chaos is definitely the one that's getting the most traction, and you guys are doing a lot of big scale things. So, can you tell me kind of like the origin of the band, and we'll eventually kind of fast forward to some of the current stuff that's happening. But tell me how that whole project came to be.
Yeah. So me, TJ, the other guitarist, and Beaver, the drummer, we used to play in a band together called Bitter Thoughts. I played bass in it, TJ played guitar, and Beaver played drums, and our friend Tyler did vocals, and we did that band.
Sorry, can I stop? Your drummer's name is Beaver?
Yeah,
That's his
name is Alex. I tried to introduce him as Alex, because I don't know. Everyone knows him as Beaver, but
okay.
That was my mistake. I usually, when I'm trying to introduce him to someone new, like,
I was like, if his real name is Beaver, is his nickname like Beav or like something like that? But I like the I was just kind of curious on that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no. Alex is the name.
Yeah. Okay.
Beaver. Beaver at the same time.
Got you.
Yeah. I mean, we played in a band for a long time. Like we had that band, and it started when we were pretty young. We had bands before that. We got together somehow just from mutual bands playing shows together. And eventually that band kind of stopped. We did other bands with each other, without each other, did whatever, kept doing shit, hanging out, always tight. And Evan, our bass player for MH, he used to live in New York, but he was a good friend of ours. So he ended up moving to Chicago, and we all wanted to start a band for a while. We kind of had the same like ideas and shit that we liked, and we liked a bunch of different shit too, so it worked out. And then Dave, our singer, he's been around the scene longer than most of us, and he was never in a band, but this was his first band. He did some guest vocals for bands and shit like that, and we loved his sound. It was like, back then he didn't do the sound he does now. It was different. So when we got in the studio and heard what he was doing, we're like, wow, it's pretty unique. But we always wanted him to get into a band, and it just made sense. He's a great frontman, and yeah, we just started meeting up and writing shit, and the band just kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah. I think it's been really wild to see the variations of the different having you on, we're going to talk mainly like riffs and like guitar work of like all the different projects, but I think MH for me, like the syncopation between a lot of the different chugging patterns and the drums and like being able to like really throw some flavor on a lot of things has been like really cool. And almost like a breath of fresh air with like a lot of like very traditional ways of doing that quote unquote like more harder or like beat like pushing into beatdown but still not being like what desolated beatdown is, if you know what I mean. So I think you guys are really carving out like a unique lane, and especially with I think there's bands are kind of like onions, like, and I don't mean to sound like Shrek, but it's like there's all these different layers that can really change the dynamics of a different band. So I think you're totally right. If you threw like the vocalist of Sector into MH Chaos, like it might even be an entirely different band because of like the more low side of things versus the MH Chaos has that more like groove and almost like rap influence with some of those things. So what were you gonna say?
A great point. Like,
yes.
I mean, throwing John from Sector into MH would be sick, but it definitely would sound very different.
Right.
And I mean, I would say the same for every member of the band.
Mm-hmm.
One was taken out, it would be very different. It's an onion, and we all make it up to what it is, and without that person, it's something different. And that's why I think the band's really unique, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the people in the band. I love them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we got a bit of the origin story about the band, which is dope. Let's fast forward like way more to current stuff that's happening. So just before you guys did the album drop, there was a bit of a viral moment that happened with one of the sets that you guys played that was captured by Sonny of Hate 56, and that to me, I've been following Sonny and his work for a long time, and that just pushed way further than I thought that any hardcore content would ever do. And the thing that I'm alluding to is the guy with the beer that got smacked in the face during your guys' set. And what's interesting, at least for me, is that there might have not been the same level of effect or impact to the like. I think the last quote unquote like memeable Hate 56 moment was the Harm's Way like Running Man kind of meme that kind of exploded, but that was like so apparent to the band, while this was a guy just in the front area of your guys' set.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, I want to break this down a little bit because I come from a marketing background, and I really like to get into the nitty gritty of some of these things. But, do you remember seeing that happen, or was that just something that you were just like, oh, I didn't know that happened while we were playing?
That's a good question. I do remember it. I don't remember. I just remember a beer flopping up. And then all I remember, I was like, oh shit, shit's popping off now. Like at the first song, we played one of the first songs that it wasn't even out yet, Chaos Returns, and people were moshing and shit. And, it was like the show was sick. Very fucking, I love that time. But it was a very big area. The stage was kind of big. And, I just didn't know how it would go. And once I was there, and once that song started, we used to play that song. I was like, oh shit, she's popping off. That was like the only thing I thought. I didn't see anything, but
you probably just maybe saw a bit of the aftermath versus the initial impact.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I actually seen a YouTube video. Someone analyzes the whole, whatever. It like very much so analyzes like every fucking piece of it, and it's quite hilarious if anybody wants to check it out. But much respect to the dude, who got hit. I tried finding out who he was, and he's someone from the Illinois area, and I found his Instagram, and I didn't see that anybody I knew followed him. I was like, oh, that's crazy, and he just said he was some old cat, who's going back to shows, and he's happy to be back going. Much respect to all parties involved. I
Yeah.
think it did something for us, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that anyone that has something that, again, like, I think it gets into this big conversation that people easily rush to, like, like that dude intentionally hit this person. And, I think I saw like Benny from Tsunami and These Streets like post on a story once, like, how dare something hardcore happen at a hardcore show? And I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, whether it's like, mic stands flying or garbage cans, like, things can get out of hand. And I think that's maybe out of hand is not the right word, but I think things can get wild to a degree. And that is what a lot of people like really love about hardcore, is that there is this level of like, there's a slight element of danger at all times. And, that varies, based off like the style of the mosh that you go city to or scene to scene. But I think like that it's, going back to skateboarding, what we talked about, there's always this element of like, you fall down, you could break something, you could do this. But I think that's what entices and elevates the subculture and the actual activity of it. So I commend anyone who like, and especially someone who's an old head who's just getting back into going shows, and the first thing that happens is like this new band starts playing and their beer gets like absolutely obliterated into their head, and they become a little bit of an internet meme for a little bit. I think people that can take that on the chin and just like ride it and just be super down with it is super dope. But yeah, I think I wish, I think there's an alternate timeline where maybe there was a little bit more spillover into the MH Chaos camp. But I think just the fact that it even happened and it was captured in that way is super sick.
Dude, agreed, man. It was a cool show.
Yeah. I think a lot of times, there's things that happen at like, I'm sure there's multiple things like that can happen at any kind of hardcore show. But, as someone who films shows myself, there's multiple times where like I've just panned, like I was editing a set last night and there's moments where I pan over and someone's doing something funny, or it's just a super unintentional thing. And then sometimes I'm just focusing on the vocalist, and in the background you can see someone like doing this or like, doing something funny. So I really ride for the people that cover shows and document stuff, because, capturing those moments, like, again, just like elevate our culture and make so many great things for us to appreciate and talk about.
Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Maybe a question I asked based off that topic is there any MH Chaos moment that you're really aside from that one, it could just be a really hype show, or a really special set to you that got captured and archived properly. I'm just kind of curious if there's any one thing that you're just like, I'm really happy that this was recorded properly.
I would say that one.
Okay.
That was a good, like, regardless of that, it was a great set. I mean, it was the first like Chicago, not the first Chicago hardcore show back, but it was like, I mean, Killer was playing,
right.
It felt special, I mean,
yeah,
with all the fucking shit going on, and then having that, it felt good. A lot of people were there, and I thought we played great. I thought that, had a lot of friends there, sounded good. We played Bottom Lounge in Chicago not too long ago before we left for the Holiday Keystone Jam in Red.
Okay.
And that's a really special venue. I mean, it's like a bigger venue. We played it with Gulch, so thank you to them for having us on there.
Yeah, shout out to the Bay Area boys.
Yeah, fucking absolutely. So many good people. But that's the first time. The Rumble used to be there for a few years. I think that's like the first time I saw the Killer. It was at that venue. So to be able to play that venue for the first time was pretty cool experience. I'm not sure if anyone captured it though. Some of the best shows are never captured. I don't know
Dude,
why.
I 100% agree. Like, I really try to lead by example of like showing, how dope it is to like cover shows. Like, it doesn't need to just be the fest that get captured. Like, there's so many local shows that, like, I have learned the lessons the hard way of like, oh, I'm only gonna film this song of this band when I was like first starting out,
Yeah.
and then like, and I know it's the last song in the set and I'm just hanging out, and then something wild happens like halfway through the set and I just feel like a buffoon for not filming it. And I know it's something within certain people's brains to think that way. But like, I really am excited. I'm going to plug my friend Noah Carter. Noah is a friend of mine
Yep.
who has started to film shows in Louisville and is doing a bang up job.
Yep.
And I'm like really stoked because when we connected at Wild Rose Hardcore Fest in 2019, he was like, looking at what I was doing, and then he took that back home and started his own thing. And like, I would arguably say like some of the sets that he's doing is like, he's putting like so much time and production into that. And I think I'm just gonna hit on that just because I would love a world that like every set ever in hardcore was captured. And obviously there's like arguments to be made about, well, like what's that going to do for the scene, but
Yeah.
I think that there's so many moments that happen that are fleeting, and then like once it's there it's gone. And not being able to, for at the very least the bands to look back and like cherish those moments and being able to have that. Yeah, they're like, there's probably like an infinite amount of viral things that have not been captured in hardcore, because of lack of people doing that. So yeah, like it's that thing where you say it's like this really badass show, but there's no point of reference to, not to say it's only to back up your statement, but to like actually be like, yeah, there's a 6 set of it that you can go watch on this person's website or this YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm hitting on it so much because I'm so passionate about
Me too.
archiving bands and music.
I mean, I like, as someone who plays in bands and likes, going to shows. I love going back and watching the videos. I fucking love it, and I think it's great that there's so many people who put a lot of production to it, and people who just fucking put up their phone and put it on YouTube or whatever. I think all of that's great, and I agree with you. As the world's changing, why not? I mean, if someone in the other side of the world wants to see what happened in some little town in the US, that's very
Yeah.
um
Yeah, like I think, I think two points there, and we'll move on to some other things, but I think how you're saying it doesn't, there is the people like, the Sunny of Hey 56 that are doing like the top level of production level, but it doesn't only need to be that. Like, you could be a person that holds your phone, and like we live in a time where like, you know, an iPhone camera or whatever is like arguably super good for documenting sets. So you could do something as simple as that and still upload it. And then, yeah, someone on the opposite side of the world, like, I've had Jem and Josh recently of Speed from Australia on, and when they have people archiving their shows where they get to play all the new song, and Australia is like a scene that's really struggled with being shut down for multiple months and then having shows and then kind of going back to it, to be able to see their scene from a total, like, literally on the opposite side of the world, I think is so, like, such a privilege in hardcore, because like that was not even in the conversation like 5 or 10 years ago.
Sure. No, yeah, absolutely. Like the fact that more people are getting exposed to international bands, and that's becoming a norm for
Hmm.
and for those bands to come play here, play fest, do tour, like Cruelty, despite
Yeah.
insane, like insane, very cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and I think it's on the flip, like, I think it helps build audiences for MH Chaos, for Sector, for any of the bands that you're a part of, just by seeing like a dope set on Hey 56, but the person lives in like Glasgow or like Germany or like South America, like wherever it is in the world. But I think that's so cool to be able to like actually connect like the hardcore scene worldwide, and then be able to have a point of reference off of like, not like the classic YouTube comment like come to this country, but I think it's like, oh, there's actually people who are watching these videos and showing them to their friends, and now I have a promoter from Indonesia reaching out to have us come out. So I think that's like super cool that we live in a time of hardcore that is happening.
Agreed. Yeah. Much respect to all the documenters of.
Absolutely. So as talk, I want to shift a little bit off of any one specific band that you play in and talk about you more so as Anchit the musician. And one thing that I think is really really sick that I want to talk to you about is your hookup with Angle amps. And so I think that there's some things there where I want to have the conversation about like musicians in hardcore getting recognized by like gear companies and things like that. But like tell me about like why you chose Angle specifically, and feel free to take us back in time, the first time you owned one of their amps and all that.
Thank you. Yeah, no. When the pandemic started, I bought an interface for the first time. I thought that recording music at home was a very far out thing that I would never be able to achieve, but I've soon realized it was very easy to just fucking figure it out and put your guitar and do that. I started a little like a very pandemic. It's been talked about on this podcast with Lumpy. We did Keep Your Distance.
Oh, right. Keep the distance.
And that was legit. Like, I give it to Lumpy. Like, honestly, like he would send me tracks of how, like, I would see how he record guitar kind of, and honestly just see what, I don't know, like that, us sending stuff back.
Right.
Stuff. And then I started recording guitars on my own, kind of whatever he was doing. And I just, from there, I kept making videos. I kept trying to record my own demos, sending it to my friends, trying to come up with songs while this stuff was going on.
Right.
I would make videos at home. I started a YouTube channel. Nothing crazy, it's just I started uploading covers and riffs, and I tested whatever amp I had, like very amateur like. But eventually, I guess my interest for Angle came from ESP guitars. It's a particular kind of brand. You obviously know about it, but it's just like a brand of guitar. I mean, I personally like them a lot. I don't know why. I just like picked one up, and one day it just seemed right to me, and I never gotten anything else since. But they are like a sister company to Angle. So
okay, I got you.
So I started doing some, research on that, and I got one of their heads, and I really liked it. And eventually, I joined random Facebook groups, random whatever, social media groups, talking about, people talking about guitars, people selling gear, people talking about amps. And little did I know, the people in these groups are like people who like own these companies. And it was
right.
crazy. And I was just posting my videos, and whoever would comment on it and reach out, and then I would start talking to them. And then eventually I would just honestly, I would just practically punish them. Like I was sending emails of like videos of stuff I was doing. I'd be like, yo, I'm pretty dedicated. I like doing this and that. When this is over, I want to, play shows with my friends and whatever. And, I'd be down. I would love to represent, Angle and stuff like that. And eventually, they were down. And yeah, they're really nice people and helpful. And I mean, it's nothing crazy. I'm not like it's not like anybody could do this. I wholeheartedly believe it if they just set themselves out. Like I know you could do it. Anybody if they want to do it. I don't know. I feel like that's just, I guess that's life, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So there's a couple things, but I like how you ended there about like you wholeheartedly believe that that is something that other people could do. And I appreciate the history of like, I did, I got into some groups, I became a part of the community. I wasn't just blindly emailing and DMing these people like asking. I felt like, there was a little bit of you know, showcasing, hey, this is the stuff that I'm doing. Here's the value that I can bring to the company.
Yeah.
And yeah, I see so many bands, and especially like the metal space, that just like it's like sponsorship after sponsorship, and I think that's really great. But like what I don't see is that like bands within our vein getting that same level of love. And I don't, and maybe it's just because not as many people are like trying to go after those things,
Sure.
because they're like, it's the classic joke, like most hardcore bands are just borrowing the gear of like whoever locally is there. But as someone that used to work at a local music store, like I got to became a bit of a gear nerd for a while, and then I think once I left that job, I kind of like scaled back of like, I don't have to buy a $400 delay if I actually don't need it, Like there's some of those things that kind of go into it. And I actually, one of my things now with, my setup is like finding the super niche like things that are like super cheap. So like, as an example, I'm looking at it right now. I bought a solid state Randall RH100, which is like the series of amps that like Dimebag would play, and just like it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I got it for like $200.
Right.
So I think that like some of those things are like a bit of a flex at times, where you can be like, I can have a sick ass guitar tone and didn't pay $2,000 to get it. But that aside, going to what you were saying with Angle, you bought one of their amps just before even getting set up with them, and you like really liked it, and you wanted to do that. So I think that's really cool, because I've been trying to strategize like how can maybe I do that for myself, but also at the same time, like, why aren't these, the Mesas, the EVHs, any of those brands around the world, like seeing the bands like Sanction, or I think Turnstile has some things, but like even like on the mid level. So I think it's really dope that MH Chaos is, I think you guys are doing a lot of cool stuff, but I think you guys like definitely aren't the biggest hardcore band in the world. But to see you at the level you're at now with an amp sponsorship, I hope that inspires other people to maybe look into that at the very least.
Thank you, dude. Dude, yeah, I mean, we're nothing special. We're fucking idiots. So I don't know, man. I mean, the fact that we've gotten any of the opportunities that we've had, I mean, I don't know. I feel so grateful, and if it were all to end the day, I mean, I would be so grateful for it.
Yeah, bury me with my Angle amp, just like holding it.
I would like that.
Is the next item on the sponsorship list like to maybe work your way towards ESP?
Yeah, dude, I'm trying to work on it. I don't. If it entails more punishing, I have no idea. Pride does.
I think it might just be the same, the same pathway of like, showing people, staying loyal, despite, not having that. And then, stranger things have happened. So I hope that for you. And I think that's dope.
Dude,
yeah.
I think more people are hooked up with like ESP in the hardcore community than we might know. Like, I looked at their artist list, and I saw like quite a few people from like the hardcore scene on that list. So maybe they're just not, hey, I'm just a loser for putting it on my bio, but whatever.
No, I hope that happens, especially with the, how this podcast works at times. Like if the day that happens, then I can just snap this clip, next to the artist profile of you, as like, hey, we called it on this episode. But I do think it's, ESP is definitely one to shoot for. Like, I've played many an EC1000s in my day, and all the models in the ESP category are just in a tier of its own.
Yeah.
I think with Endgame specifically, I've just forever wanted to have a reverse headstock guitar, and so a lot of the Jackson models have been that. So that's what I've been currently playing. But I think LTD and ESP have a couple reverse headstocks.
I just got one. It came in.
Yeah, I see that in the background. You want to show it off?
Yeah.
Dude, that is dope.
I love
Is that just like a gloss black?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's dope though. I just think those style of like the Super Strat just looks so much better with the reverse headstock. I think it's just like, it's super metal without having a crazy shaped body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
I don't know. You just feel like
Yeah. You're like, if someone put down a block of cheese, I could just cut this up like mid set. So, let's talk about some of the other bands that you're playing in. So like, obviously, Sector, Hold My Own, Grounds of Execution. Hold My Own especially is like really interesting to me, because like you guys dropped your demo like right before the year ended, and I think it's been gaining a lot of traction. So you're repping the shirt as well, so maybe let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of funny. I mean, this all started from the From Within One Scene Unity comp. MH Chaos did a song, and Greg Felchetto's band, he was in the Mongoloids and a few other bands. His band also did a song on the comp.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to him. I was like, yo, man, I mean, me and my brother, like, we used to listen to the Mongoloids a lot growing up. So it's pretty cool to do a song with one of your bands on it, on a comp, much respect. And he was like, he responded back, pretty positively. And then I don't think we ever talked again for like a few months, but then out of the blue, he messaged me. He's like, let's start a band. I was like, holy shit. I was like, that's sick. I was like, all right. And I mean, we got a recording set up at home at our practice spot. And me and Serge from Sector, we have, pretty easily write some shit and put it together, record it. One of our splits with Alfred Justice, we did it ourselves and sent it to Taylor Young at the pit to reamp and mix. So I kind of did that for this. And I kind of just wrote some shit with Serge. We put it together. I would show Greg, and he'd be like, yeah, hell yeah. I would write the lyrics for it, send to Greg. He would tweak some things. I'll put do some demos. He would tweak it, do his thing, and make it something amazing with his style. He's a very talented, amazing frontman, and it's been great to, I guess, just getting to know him and being in a band with him this short time has been a very unexpected and pleasant experience in hardcore that I've gotten to have. And I appreciate him a lot. And, that band came along, and my brother, he's playing bass, and my blood brother's playing bass in it, which is like so special. It's fucking amazing,
Very full circle, it sounds like.
Amazing, yeah. And then Shane Merrill from The Killer, someone just look up to so much. He's playing guitar in it too. So, I mean, just, and then Serge, I mean, I love the dude to death, so feels good.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how the band kind of started in like, we're just, there's no expectation. I'm just saying this message to this dude that I've like personally gotten a lot of from their past projects. And then, months later, they're like, I'm going to start a band with this dude. And then, it blossoms into this whole thing. I think that's like super wholesome, if anything.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, we're just a hardcore band. We'll do what we can. I don't think that would be something crazy. It's fun. Like we all just love to just play some shows and do some shit when we can. And I think everyone's enjoying it. So
Right. Yeah, and I think it's cool to see all the different projects that you're in. Like Hold My Own is, yeah, like it's one of those certain side projects, quote unquote, are interesting to me because I'm thinking when Joey from Koyo came on, like Koyo started as like a side project thing for him with his friends while like Typecast wasn't on tour, but then that has exploded into like now that's almost like the full-time project for him now.
yeah,
But at the same time, like Hold My Own is one of those things that if MH Chaos is playing a fest, you could easily be like, yo, like I have this other band. It would only require two other people or three other people or whatever it is to jump on. And then that is kind of a thing to help not like fast track it, but like get it ahead of, the hard labor of like going out and touring for multiple weeks when that's
sure,
not even the goal or intention of that project.
sure. I mean, we'll try to play shows as much as we can, but yeah, the stuff like that, just hop on a show, play a couple songs, whatever. I think it's
Hmm.
pretty cool. And
Yeah. And like, had Ryan of LDB Fest on and we talked afterwards, after recording. He's like, that is almost so valuable for a promoter of doing that scale of an event. Like, hey, do you have side project bands that are only like a couple other people? Like, because trying to get those on, versus trying to have like every band is 4 or 5 unique individual people. So I think that's a good strategic move
it's
from
interesting.
yeah. So yeah, that's really good. Sector is also a band that you're playing in, and recently did like a 2-song promo.
Yeah,
Um, I feel like out of most bands, like Sector is definitely that like this is Chicago, like it's very like strongly branded around that. So yeah, just talk to me about like what you guys are doing. I really liked the split that you guys did last year with Raw Life.
thank you
It was
for putting that on Scopies.
Oh,
Um,
of course. Yeah. It was so funny cuz like I very early on was like 2021 is just the year of the hardcore split cuz it was that Age of Apocalypse and Pain of Truth, Gridiron and
so
Despise, Gulch and Soon. Like it was just like just overload, especially in those first few months. And Endgame's like last release was a split, and I was just seeing that. I'm like, how are we like even gonna compete with like a lot of these other splits in the mix? So yeah, talk to me about like what you guys currently have going on with Sector and maybe specifically on the 2-song promo.
yeah, man. So that 2-song promo, those 2 songs are gonna be on a. We're gonna re-record them. It's gonna be on a full-length record out on Retribute Records from Japan. Um,
Oh, sick.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a hero from Japan. He's an awesome dude, and yeah, we'll be like 8 or so songs, and we're writing right now. We'll probably go to the studio in May with Bricktop Studio in Chicago. Looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we just got some shows lined up. We meet up, practice, playing with Madball in the beginning of next month. Looking forward to that. And yeah, man, uh with that band, it's just fun. Like it's similar with Hold My Own. It's just really and every band we do, it's just fun. And Sector, I love John. He did a lot of bands. He used to do Warhound. So, now bringing him on this and him, fronting this band is another very special thing.
Mm-hmm.
Serge, great drummer and great friend and great person to write with. Justin, he plays bass and he's actually my childhood friend. We used to skate together when we were super fucking young, and some of our first bands played together, and now to be in a band with him, another full circle thing, honestly. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just grateful for these things, man. Like things like this, like talking about it, it makes me feel more grateful for it because I realize like little shit like that. It's not little, it's like so big. And
Yeah.
those are the things in life to be grateful for. And there's not, just we just keep doing this shit for ourselves and our friends, each other.
Hmm.
And that I think that's what Sector is. It's for our friends. It's for Chicago hardcore. It's for anybody who reps their own scene and just loves hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people, let's go down here. I see a lot of people that are heavily involved in different projects at different points in their life. And that could be like a lot of projects, could be 2, and those are like full-time bands, or there could be 6 projects and all those things. So for you specifically, like how do you not feel, or not avoid, but like how do you avoid burnout with like practice schedules and different jam things? Like how do you maintain and navigate through all that for you specifically?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know.
I'm still figuring it out.
Dude, I mean, same for you, I mean, you're very regimented, and this podcast is very, huge part of your life, and you document bands, and you still play in a band. And I mean, I guess just how you do it and everyone else. I mean, I guess one day at a time, and try to play remember the riffs the night before, and then
Right. Yeah, I think I feel like with people like that, either of us, like who have our hands in so many different honeypots, it's a balancing act at times. And I'm thinking, this goes back to like the first couple of podcasts that I did, but I had my friend Sean on, who I used to play in a band with, and he was like, he's been known to play in like 6 to 7 bands. Like he jokingly would have a birthday show where only all of his bands would play, so he would just play like 6 sets back to back to back to back to back.
that happened.
What's that?
That happened. He would.
Oh, like multiple years in a row.
Holy shit!
I'm like, Sean, you're a madman.
That's amazing.
So it would be like his super metal doomy band to the hardcore band to like crust punk to like, and he would jump around like drums here, bass here, guitar here. So I think one point that he brought up was like a lot of different projects just kind of are on the bench at times.
Yeah.
And then when it's their time for the next release or a next tour that's coming up, they step in, and then usually another band kind of is on the bench. Kind of like, if you're watching a hockey game, like the line changes and, new focuses come into play.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there's like obviously times where there's things that conflict and you're like, holy shit, I have to prioritize different things.
Sure.
But yeah, it is wild to see someone like yourself who is like in so many different projects and doing different things, but is, like you said, like so grateful and just like so down for like for that level of involvement in all of that.
Thank you, Spencer. It's great to see someone like you doing what you do. It's inspiring. Yeah, I mean, shit like that, like seeing what other people do, how they've done it, whatever it is, and then apply it to yourself and whatever you're doing, and just take it full speed. And yeah, I mean, I guess we just love hardcore, and without it, probably go crazy. I mean, maybe that's part of why I do it, is if I didn't do it, I'd probably go crazy. I mean, probably the truth. I don't know. So, because honestly, sometimes if I'm sitting around doing nothing, I'm like, damn, I gotta do something.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and there's nothing bad to be said about someone who's like, I'm doing this one band or this one podcast or this one fest, and then that is their main focus. And because I think doing the amount that you or I do is not like, oh, we're more involved in hardcore than other people. I think that there's just different ways of being involved, and people have different tolerances to be able to, like, I don't expect every single person to play in a band, run a podcast, and film shows at the same time. But for me, that is my, like, like that is the involvement that I have chosen and have like genuinely been stoked about because I get to play in all those different lanes. And obviously that's not for everyone.
I agree, man. I agree with
I think if we swapped like Freaky Friday bodies and I played in 6 bands and you had to do all this, like I think we would probably lose our minds
that would be
individually.
yeah. I wouldn't know what the fuck to do.
And I would just be like, I can't even like remember the riffs for 2 of these bands. You know, with that being said, like I think it's always funny talking to people who play in multiple projects to be like, has riffs of one band accidentally showed up at the practices of another by accident, or you're like having a brain fart of some of those things?
Like in the writing process, like I switched what band I was gonna bring it to. If I had like a
Oh, okay. You're like, I'm writing for MH, and you're like, oh, this actually would work really well for Sector.
that's happened.
I love that.
That's what up, dog?
What up, Mino?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a time where I was like playing like a sector show and I started playing it at Matrix. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think the bands are like different enough that I can separate it.
Yeah. Are you using like different guitars and different tunings, or there's like
It's the same tuning, and
okay,
if the band's playing together, I always use the same guitar.
got you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but
I think most of the time it gets into like a little bit of muscle memory where you're just like,
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking about what I'm playing. It's just
Right.
kind of happening.
Totally. At one point, yeah, if it's not like a new song and I'm just not learning it for the first time or whatever
Right.
for a band, but I agree. A lot of it is for sure muscle memory.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it shows. I'm impressed when bands can just like, jump on, maybe they live in different parts of the world and they all get together. I'm going to quickly plug Ends of Sanity. There's like a band from, I think, Southern or somewhere in Carolina,
Yeah.
somewhere in that pocket of the States. But James, friend of the show, came on like episode like 2 of season 2, and they put out a really cool like EP, and then just a couple days ago, Sonny premiered the set that he filmed, and I realized in the caption that was their first time ever playing together. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no, like quick run through at like someone's house beforehand. Just like, all right, did everyone practice individually? Yes. Are we sure? Okay, let's run the set, and it was killer. I'm like blown away by that.
Agreed. Yeah, I watched that set and I was like, damn, this is the first time y'all have played together.
Yeah. It's just wild. And I've also had like Andrew from Comeback Kid on recently, and like that band has been known to live all throughout the world and get together to jam for a 3-week tour or a big trip over to a different country. And I just think it's so cool that, again, we live in a time in hardcore where like people can take it upon themselves to like really iron out their stuff, and then a lot of it is just maybe working out a couple kinks when you're actually in the same room as other people. But if Ends of Sanity can like play their first show and have never jammed together, that shit is still so wild to me.
Yeah, think of the possibilities people get.
Yeah, the amount, like the risk, the potential for fuck up is probably at an all-time high, but they killed it. So yeah, shout out to Ends of Sanity. People need to listen to that band more.
Sick band.
So, Anchit, a couple other questions before we start to wrap up the show.
Yeah.
Obviously, Chicago, known for a lot of great things in hardcore, known for a lot of great things in the world in general. So, as someone who's from the area, what is your take on Deep Dish?
I love Deep Dish personally. I go back and forth on it. I mean, I wouldn't eat it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm almost, I'm not almost a pizza kind of guy. God,
A pizza? What
pizza,
do you mean by that?
pizza's pizza. I don't give a shit.
Oh, okay. I got you.
But
Pizza welcoming with open arms.
yeah, I love pizza.
Got you. Okay.
Number one thing I eat, but I'm not crazy picky on it. But if it's shit, if like the cheese is, I can't even eat it without it falling off, then I mean, there's a lot of good pizza, deep dish spots. Pequod's is really good. Uno's, there's two of them. I forgot which one as a kid I went to, which was the first one.
Mhm.
I mean, it was pretty good. Haven't had it in a long time. And then, I mean, yeah, Pequod's is good.
Yeah, I've been to Chicago twice in my life, and the the first time I was there, and the second time, and this is before I stopped eating meat, but we went to Giordano's, and I think at the time it was like, oh, everything's new, and you kind of have that kind of those rose-colored like glasses in a way. But is that overrated as far as you're concerned?
People can say that, but I fuck with it. I will have Giordano's, and
Okay.
I like their thin a pizza. Like their deep dish maybe isn't my top choice. I like Lubavati's too sometimes. I fuck with it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a pizza
Gatekeeper. All pizza is welcome here. Yeah, but I do think that like the next time I'm there, I definitely want to inquire with, someone who can be like, this is the more like unique spot to go to that has like the really good stuff versus something that's a little bit more commercial and corporatized.
Yeah, whenever you come here, we're gonna hang out. And
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna hang out and do the amps and the pizza and everything in between.
super.
Okay, so off of that, because I always like to talk to people about like getting a little bit of a tourist suggestion. What's like the one place if we had a day to chill and just do Chicago stuff? What's like the one place that we absolutely would go to? Like you are my guide for the day.
I would probably go a few places. Like if we had the day, I mean, there's a lot to do. I mean, I love Navy Pier, man. Navy Pier is sick. It's just it's a like waterfront area. They've got a lot like smaller rides, a lot of good food, boat rides, get on a boat, I would say fucking get on a jet ski, go around. You can rent stuff like that, paddle boards and stuff like that.
Oh, sick.
And just, yeah. I think stuff like that is very unique. There's like a thing where you can get on a paddle board, and on Wednesdays and Saturdays, there's going to be fireworks around that area. And there's a sea of boats and people in paddle boards just going and seeing the fireworks. It's the most epic shit ever, man. It's it's like,
it's true.
It's so cool, yo. People just kayaking and just chilling. Millennium Park's cool if it's not so cold. There's just various shops and just I don't know, man. It depends on what people like to do.
Sure.
I mean, whenever I'm usually just either out to eat with my fiance, going out to just seeing whatever, or I'm at a practice spot.
Yeah.
Whoever comes to town, I usually take them to our practice spot. That's usually the.
Oh, why is the practice spot on the list of things to see?
I don't know. It ends up being a place of fun. People just pick up a guitar, drum, start playing Taking Back Sunday covers. I don't know.
That's sick.
Things unfold in very, very odd ways and very awesome ways.
Who's the last person to do a Taking Back Sunday cover?
It was Lumpy.
It was like that sounds about right. That's so dope. Yeah, I think Chicago definitely has a lot of cool bands that are coming up through there right now, and I hope to see it because most of the only time when I was living in Winnipeg, where I'm from, and there was like a bunch of kids that went down, I think for like a Harm's Way show. This was like back in like 2013, 14, something like that.
Mm.
And I think just like getting the play by play from when they came back, they were like, Chicago has like the most craziest moshers ever. And like, we thought we had like, people who were violent, but like Chicago just was on another level. And I just think you can definitely hear that in some of the bands of like writing the riffs that actually like engage and encourage the violence at times, which I think is dope.
Yeah, man. I guess that's just what we like. I don't know.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good way that we can kind of go into the last question of the podcast here on chat. The last question that I ask everyone on the podcast is a favorite mosh story that they would like to share. So, obviously Chicago is known for a lot of hard moshing, and I'm sure a lot of different ideas are rushing to your head. So whatever's the first thing, it could be something that happened to you, something that just you did, something that happened during a set of yours. Whatever's the first thing to kind of end off the episode is how we start to wrap up.
The last weekend nacho show, I broke my ribs and my phone cracked in complete half. It was amazing. It was
like
legit cracked.
Into two?
Like shattered. Like it was still kind of hung together, but
it was not straight. It was like,
yeah. And I broke my ribs. Yeah. I like stage dove and like my rib hit the side of a speaker.
Oh no.
I mean, this isn't that crazy. It was just like,
well, I'm very curious about how the phone went from this to being into potentially two pieces. Like you took it out of your pocket and it was like that?
Yeah. There were so many people there, dude. Like that shows. It was a small venue and there's just so much people. I don't know. I thought I was gonna like die in the sea of people. Make it out alive.
Dude, that is wild. You must have just hit something just that like was so solid that the phone just gave and just nope.
Yeah.
And your ribs at the same time. Like, I'm sorry I'm focusing on the phone and not your well-being of your ribs and all that, but I just think that's just like the visual of that is wild. Just a lot of things broken all at once.
Another one of my first bands we played, there's this dude, he's not around our scene anymore, but there's a picture of this guy. It's the most perfect picture in the whole world. He's punching this dude and there's like you can see like he looks like that and there's a kid like that and there's blood coming out and there's other people behind him that they're just like, holy shit. And it's just in this basement and it's just like the goofiest photo of all time. And I just remember that going down and that was a funny mosh moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very goofy. It sounds like, but I would want to be the person watching that versus the person receiving. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah. On chat. Well, this has been a really great chat. I'm really happy that we got to make this happen. All of your band's links and your stuff will all be in the show notes and the YouTube description and all that good shit. But if there's anyone that you want to shout out, plug, or send the people off with before we wrap up, the floor is yours.
Just shout out to everyone who's supported our bands. Shout out to you. Thank you for having me on this amazing podcast. Shout out to just everyone in my bands, and I love all them. Shout out to everybody in our scene, from every part of it. Just whatever you do, whatever you bring to it is so unique and it holds so much value. And without that each piece, it's just nothing. So I just have so much love and appreciation for the hardcore scene and everybody in it and what they have to offer to it, because it is a special thing and it is what you make it, and doing it for yourself is the only thing that matters.
I love that. Very, very wholesome. And I 1,000% agree. Hardcore is what you make it. And I think it's very easy to sit on the sidelines and complain and point fingers versus just being the change that you want to see. And I see that with you, Anchit. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and shooting the shit with me. I hope that we get to link up sometime this year.
I can't wait for that, man. Thank you again, Spencer.